Hi, everyone. It's me, Tim. Today, I want to talk about that it's okay for you to change your mind. I'm wondering if this is going to be part of my series, It's Okay To, since I did one a few weeks ago about it's okay to be proud. So I had some very interesting comments from people who really took that as like, hey, you want to be arrogant. It's the pride goeth before the fall. There were a lot of comments like that. Not what I meant, but okay. We'll see how this one goes on It's Okay to Change Your Mind. What made me think of this is over the many decades I've been alive, there have been a lot of games and movies and TV shows that I didn't like. But then later I went back to them, sometimes like a year later, sometimes a decade or two later. And I'm like, this is kind of good. And I tried to figure out why I didn't like it back then. And sometimes it was kind of a change in my state of mind. Like maybe I just wasn't in the mood for a documentary or something serious or something that made me think too hard. I know for several sitcoms I just was not in the mood for yet another fat, funny husband with skinny, smart wife sitcom. Early 2000s, I'm looking at you. It was one after another after another. So even if one came out and it was really high quality and well written and great acting and great jokes, I just was like, I can't take another one of these right now. That queue is full. Sometimes though it was a better understanding of what they were doing. To me, this is something like when I first watched Inception or Memento, and at the end of the movie I'm like, and it took multiple watchings for me to go, okay, I kind of get this. Sometimes it was just me. I was the one who changed. The show or the game or the TV show stayed the same. I changed. And I give examples of what I'm talking about for all three of those. But what I've learned over time is if I give examples, this will just sidetrack the entire conversation. If I actually name a game or TV show that I changed my mind on, there'll be a huge discussion about that game really was good or bad and that I should have loved it and how horrible. And I'm like, just take the premise that there was something I used to not like and now I like. Let me talk about that. Because what surprised me the most is whenever I would mention this to people I know, family, friends, coworkers, there were always a few of them that thought it was absolutely terrible of me that I changed my mind. I mean, some of the things that people said were, or aren't you wishy-washy? Or aren't you soft-minded? One person called me hypocritical. Said, you said you hated that. Now you like it? You're such a hypocrite. And I'm like, whoa, back it up. I changed my mind. Which often leads me to ask those people, because they get so worked up that you changed your mind on something, that I always ask them, okay, have you never changed your mind on anything? And the answers were really interesting to me because several of them said, you're right, I've never changed my mind. I get the facts. That was something I got a lot. I get the facts. I care only about the objective things. And then I asked them what they mean by objective things. Like the game's layout, the lighting, the progression, the storytelling, objective things. And I'm like, objective? Do we have a different definition of objective? And I realized I'm working again with one of the members of the crowd. My taste is 100% objective. And I'm not even stirring up that old hornet nest. If you think that, you're going to think that forever, and I can't convince you otherwise. But guess what? Your taste isn't objective. Like, there are people on this channel who like white chocolate. Blows my mind, but more power to you. I mean, eat it, I guess. Or maybe you use it. I bet you some of you use it to grout your bathtub. See, that would be a good reason to have white chocolate around. Anyway, some of the people I talk to, I found out there's no gray for them. There's no gray area. Everything that they enjoy, whether it's a game or a TV show or a movie, it's awesome. It is the best thing ever. I mean, they're so bombastic about it. It's like, this show is the best thing ever. It's wonderful. Everybody should watch this. Or, that was the stupidest show I ever saw. It was the worst thing I've ever seen. How did that get aired? How did that get shipped? All I can tell you is people like this are freaking exhausting because there is no middle ground with them. They never said, yeah, I watched that show. It's okay. Or, I didn't really care for it. I don't think it's for me. I mean, the acting was good. Nope, everything is either the best thing on the planet or the worst thing they ever saw. And then there was a third crowd. There was the consensus group. These are people that wait a little while. They want to see what the masses think. They want to see what all their friends think, or they want to see what happens on Metacritic or Rotten Tomatoes. And then there it is. To them, a show is good or bad if the consensus says it's good or bad. And I don't want to say they don't think for themselves, but I think they like to delay their thinking until they get a lot of other thinking from other people. And then they often just go with the consensus. So I've never worked that way. I tend to like things if I like them or not like them, and I'm very in the moment about it, which means some things have changed. Some of my opinions have changed on games and TV shows because to me, I thought it represented a kind of learning or personal growth or whatever you want to call it and how I view things. Also, I don't like the idea that I'm static. I'm not comfortable with the idea that today me is exactly like yesterday me and is going to be identical to tomorrow me. I know some people worry about that. They're like, wow, I'm worried future me is going to be totally different. But I don't think that you want to be static. I mean, doesn't that mean you kind of have no goals? This is the way I am right now, and I'm never going to learn anything new and change my mind on anything ever again. It's a very strange way of thinking about changing your mind. But I encountered more than one person that way. While talking to them, it reminded me of why it's kind of a dumb thing to try to explain a really complicated, nuanced thing to a child because they just think it's dumb. I mean, have you ever tried to explain relativity to a little kid and they're like, what? Time can speed up and slow down? Space can change? Wait, time and space are the same thing? You're an idiot, Uncle Tim. Quantum theory is the same way. What do you mean you can't cut some things in half? Or there's a smallest thing, shortest duration. That's dumb. Basically what I've learned is I've run into some very rigid thinkers. Somewhere early in their life, they decided this is the way to think, this is the way to be. And most of them view it as a sign of being very strong. Like either strong-minded or strong-willed, or I'm just a strong person because I've got my convictions and my beliefs and nothing will change them. To me, I don't see it that way. I see convictions that can't be changed as either the person's very naive, because it's weird to think that you may have figured everything out by the time you were 22, or it's a sign of being very uninformed, like you took the first good philosophy, political view, religion that came along and went, that's me, everything else is out. Or worse, and to me, okay, both are pretty bad, but to me the worst thing about all that is they just seem so disinterested. And this is something that I do think happens when people get older. They kind of get exhausted. People I know who seem disinterested now in new shows and new music. I can't imagine being that way, but I hope it's not coming down the pipe for me because I like getting excited about things. Which means I have in mind, like, in my mind, I've changed game designs. In fact, I have videos about it. I have a video called my own ideas that got rejected, meaning I had games I was working on, often as game director, and someone came up to me and said, we could do it this way, and we changed it. I mean, that video is full of it, and the one I always laugh about is I was going to ship Fallout calling it, A-slips, until somebody said, you can call it special. But also, I have a whole video called Learning Lessons from Failure, where some of the biggest, most important things I learned about game development were from elements of my game that we put in, shipped with, and they did not work. So I think that's a good thing, to be able to look at something and go, I was wrong, I'm changing my mind on that. And at a higher level, I think it's perfectly okay if you ever want to change your mind on something. I'm not saying doing it just willy-nilly is a good thing. I'm saying if you've looked at stuff and decided a certain thing is true, or a certain way of doing things is true, or just there's something you like, and then later on you get more information or more exposure to stuff and you change your mind on stuff, that's okay. And the whole point of this is just to say that thing. It's okay to change your mind.